I've noticed that we always carry a Fuji camera with us whenever we are going out for a trip. Like every trip I remember, there was always a Fuji camera. Whether initially it was the X-T3, then it was this XE camera, XE4. Now we carry the X-T5 always. Now when I'm shooting professionally, I'm not carrying Sony or Fuji. I'm actually carrying only the Nikons. And despite me not having the entire range of Fuji lenses, I mean I have quite a few lenses. I think starting from the kit lens to the 75 1.2. So there's quite a bit of focal length range. I think I'm always carrying a Fuji camera because I feel I'm going to miss out on something if I don't keep the Fuji with me. And oftentimes I've seen that, okay, I have the Nikons, but I've just taken out the Fuji first to shoot. Like everyone talks about how the Fuji cameras are light and small and easy to carry, easy to pack. But I think there is something that happens creatively. I think in terms of my approach to photography changes, and I feel that I'm looking for a more creative approach to photography than let's say fake gear heavy approach to photography. And what I mean by that is that I have a lot of expensive Nikon lenses like 1.2s, 2.8 zooms, and they can give you this very not exotic, but they can give you it's just the brute power of the gear that you start to depend on. But on my Fujis, I'm mostly shooting at f4 or f2.8. I'm not using shallow depth of field a lot, and I'm using third-party lenses. I'm shooting less. I'm taking more time to focus because the system is not still, it's not that fast to focus with. It does kind of struggle at times. X-T5. In fact, I've stopped upgrading my Fuji because I fear that if I do that, I'm going to wreck the current autofocus. So anyway, I think I have a few reasons. I think the first reason is that the minimalism of the gear somehow translates into how I look at the scene as well. I'm also looking for more lifestyle-y shot. I'm looking for colors more because the colors look so beautiful through the screen. And so that becomes the reason I really notice the colors more. I'm looking at how colors work with each other. And I'm shooting less of subjects, like I'm shooting less in portrait style, but I'm shooting more in landscape style. And that I think is the most important thing, that I'm shooting. My approach to photography becomes more landscape-y, if that's a word. What I mean by that is I'm not trying to take portraits more. I mean, I'm looking at the whole picture and then shooting it. And I think it's a mindset thing, but somewhere the fact that I'm not relying on shallow depth of field changes a lot of things. Also, I'm not shooting things that are fast moving, right? Because the Fuji, I don't rely on fast moving objects. I don't rely on the Fuji autofocus to track and shoot fast moving objects. So what I end up doing is actually I end up shooting something that does not need me to track something moving, which means I just observe my surroundings more. I move from people shooting mode to scene shooting mode. So somewhere I feel the first reason is that I approach photography differently. My composition changes. I look at colors more. So the whole attitude to photography changes because of just how Fuji as a camera works, as a system works. As a system, it does not give you like amazing depth of field. It doesn't give you a very fast autofocus. So what you start relying on is you are shooting slower. I actually don't want the autofocus system to get better on the Fuji. I want to shoot slow every time I pick up a Fuji. So I am shooting slower. I'm being more considerate. These are the two things first. These are the first two things. I'm shooting slower, and as a result of that, I'm being more considerate to the scene. Well, look, this is unscripted. I've spoken about three things. I talked about how I look at colors differently because the colors are so punctuated and is a key feature of the Fuji cameras. I go through the color profiles more and I actually discover what kind of picture profile I'm going to pick up for this kind of shooting. For where I am, I may go for the desaturated look. I may go for the saturated look where the white balance is warm. I may want to emphasize on the reds. I may want to emphasize on the blues. It really depends on how I'm what the scene is. So I'm becoming a lot more color conscious when I'm shooting with Fuji. Secondly, I'm not looking for a post-processing workflow, so I'm relying what the camera gives me straight out of the body as a JPEG. So yeah, I'm being far more composition conscious and far more color conscious. Second comes the fact that I start shooting slow. I'm not tracking people, I'm not shooting portraits, I'm more scene conscious. I'm looking at the whole thing, I'm using a wider depth of field most of the times. So I become a lot more composition conscious. So color, becoming a lot more color conscious and composition conscious are the two things that's happening with me naturally because of how the Fuji system works. After 2 years of the X-T5, I feel that there's a lot more for Fuji to improve on. I think they're on the right track with the introduction of new color profiles, picture profiles. I think as a company, their products are only getting better. Yes, there have been a few hiccups with their recent firmware updates, but I genuinely feel that's a small issue in the journey that Fuji is on. I really believe that the XT cameras are going to evolve in the right way in the next generation. I want the bodies to be built better. If Fuji is to come out with an XT6 next year, I'm going to look forward to that. So that's the reason why I'm going to stick to the system. And because I stick to the system and I love the colors, I love the user experience, I might as well just use it. I don't see Fuji becoming irrelevant for the kind of work I do. I don't see Fuji becoming non-competitive in the years to come. I often think that about Panasonic, that I'm not sure about what Panasonic is going to do. I'm very sure that Fuji is going to grow from strength to strength, which is the reason why I stick to Fuji as a system. And since I do and I love Fuji, it is very difficult for me to leave it back home. I have left the Sony back home a few times. I have left some Nikon cameras back home at the same a few times. Of course, because I have too many Nikon cameras. So maybe I'm always carrying one or two with me anyway. But I have left the Sony back because I know that when I'm looking through the viewfinder, it's not inspiring me. When I'm looking at the Sony system, I don't know what Sony is going to do that Nikon is not going to do. But I see there are ways that Fuji is distinct. Yes, I have the ZF, but the Fuji and the ZF, although they're close, they're not exactly same. The lenses are designed differently. They produce very different kind of looks. For example, the 33 1.4 is a unique looking lens, and you don't have something like that on the Nikon mount. You have the 50 1.2. It looks perfect. The Fuji 33 1.4 is beautiful, and there are ways it is imperfect that makes it amazing, gorgeous. It is, those imperfections don't bother you. They add to the character of the lens, and that's, I think, that is something that we'll see in many Fuji lenses, even the older generation Fuji lenses. So overall, as an ecosystem, I feel that I can grow with the system more and more, and so far it has really helped me become a better photographer. I feel that every trip that I go on to, if I bring my Fuji, I'm probably going to get a shot because of the Fuji, because I think that shot looks so beautiful through the Fuji colors, through the Fuji perspective, that I actually approach the photography differently. I look at, like I said, I look at it more from the point of view of a landscape photographer, as a slower photographer, as a more considerate photographer. So these are the 5 reasons why I think that Fuji is indispensable for me whenever I'm traveling. So let me know what you think. You might have seen a lot of pictures that I've taken in this last 2 days in Pondicherry, in the southern part of India. You'll see a few more videos from this place. I'm thoroughly enjoying this beautiful little town, and this is the off season. One should come here during December, November, January, but even the middle of the year is beautiful here, and especially the evenings, it starts to rain. It just looks beautiful. I'm going to see you soon with another one. Subscribe.